who's the audience, man? That's my question as we head in. And I don't know who we're heading into. Go.
Girl, I love that taste. Park your car right on my face. Baby, pump those brakes just in case. Girl, just leave that horse while you take my heart, of course. Walking right through walls, lock the doors. Girl, I love that taste. Park your car right on my face. Baby, pump those brakes just in case. Girl, I love you so, girl. I love you so, girl. I love you so, girl. I love you so, yeah,
Did we say audience?
Yeah.
So I'm going to start with the audience.
Right? You know, you could probably dance to that.
Okay. If you want to know the thought bubbles that are going down.
Yep.
And I might even let you pick. I'm just going to do 3 on this one.
Okay.
Oh, there's 4. All right. Here's our 4. You can choose the order in which we go. We're going to address audience, fashion, production, and compositional content. Where did you want to start?
I want to start with audience.
All right. So are people going to be watching this segment all in a chunk?
Yep.
Oh, great. Okay. So I just want to call out the jogger. Yay for the jogger. Yay for the minivan. Yay for the kid at the grocery store. Mm-hmm. And I guess there's the video as a concept.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps his audience is the open sky for this one. I'm guessing probably not. I'm not. So you
part of the audience. I think
Lewis is his own audience.
I think so. Partially. I think there's a value. Interesting stuff happens, and I mean that was.
Can you say more about that?
So if you're creating something specifically for other people or someone else versus creating something for yourself, there's honesty that comes out of it, I think, and authenticity that is obvious when you're creating other person. So I feel like he made this. This is what you want. But feel free to disagree.
So here we are, you and I, the paths chosen differently. People have the gifts they've got, and they have the path they've got with their art. And I do think that art wants to be free. Like there's stuff that wants to be made, or songs that want to be created, or pieces, and they find you and you work them. And that's kind of, I think, like what it is to be a maker or an artist or whatever you want to call creatives. And some people do it in a professional context, like kind of work for hire or as part of like a bigger something, like side people helping bring music to life. Or people that do professional graphic artwork. And then I think about people that are, I don't think of them as necessarily being pure artists, but that's a conversation for another time. And you know who you could get on the show for that one is Rick Rubin. Like that would be a crazy conversation to have about just how we make art and why we make art. And we're not going to go all the way there, but I had never thought of like bringing in the vectors of authenticity and honesty for Lewis Cole, because he's just kind of like, that's his table stakes. You know, I mean, I feel like that's part of the drive for whatever he's choosing to be in for a musical milieu, or that's part of the drive behind Screw It. We're setting up the hallway. Like, I don't even think there's a Screw It. I just think it's like, oh, the hallway's perfect. I have sheets and sheets of foam baffling that will be exactly what we need for this decorating. So you can say that the song is something that he's doing to please himself, and maybe that is the case. I do think there is a way that we're making stuff for ourselves first, but not exclusively.
Oh, like completely. Yeah,
like, but that's
probably
like
where that's probably the key spot.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, I'm making this for me, but it's also shareable, or it's like edible food for others as well. Like it's when you share the stuff that you really like and think is the most fun. Again, coming back to the fun factor. So was Lewis having fun? I suspect he might have been, but I also think he might have been cold. Oof. So I'm going to go back to that idea that Lewis was making this for himself, but it's a love song. So there's an audience of reception typically in a love song that is not yourself. There's usually a other you are loving. So, so that's fun.
Yeah.
If we're talking audience, there is self as audience. There is the kid at the mall as kind of an audience, but there's also like who you're imagining writing the song to or for. And that's a whole nother thing with like love songs or baby you done me wrong songs. Like so many times people are working out, you know, I shouldn't make this overly vaunting generalization. I'm not a musicologist, but there have been times in history where people who want to say things about their employer and it ends up being like a breakup song.
Right.
Baby, you have done me wrong. So I don't know. Love songs are interesting that way when they're not necessarily written about a breakup or written about a love, a beloved, a specific beloved. Who knows the mind of Lewis Cole? Somebody'd have to get him to say who he wrote the song for. And maybe he'll say, it was just an ode of self-love. I needed to wear chainmail. Okay. All right. So we also just did cover video concept, which is, I thought that was so fun. And really to explore being a knight on a horse that's on a lawnmower engine or some type of robotic frame. Have you seen John Mulaney, Everybody's in LA?
No.
Samo, the food delivery unit, is one of the cast. And I feel like this rocking horse creature is one of the cast in this video. And it's compelling. Like we can watch that for 3 minutes and not feel done.
Right. Yep.
So there didn't need to be anything else. I mean, there could have been some kind of joust sequence where there were many people in like a bumper bowling area, like not bumper bowling, like bumper cars, like where there could have been multiple people doing that. But this was enough to have him in his fashion world with his faithful, trusty steed, navigating.
Yep, navigating, and people admit not navigating.
Yeah.
Hey,
shout out to the minivan extra.
The minivan was great. Yep.
Yeah. I don't know how many times they had to make the minivan driver like redo that shot, like back out and like block him again. Perhaps it's documentary footage. So that's the other thing too, is like when it almost feels, okay, go there just for a little bit. Theater of Liberation would stage things in Brazil on buses, like scenario improv, and then people would watch it and then possibly intervene, or I don't know exactly how they worked it outside of a theater situation that gave people a chance to replay through, situations where they could take action. I don't think he's so much doing Boal's Theater of Liberation in this video, but I do think he's taking play out into the real world.
Yes.
Onto real streets and sidewalks.
Yep.
Like, somebody will remember running into him from that day. So I don't know. Yeah. So I think about what happens when you're out and about playing and being creative in the middle of a world that's behaving in a more normative fashion. That's a lot of what the video visual was. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So yay for the audience. We're not sure of all of who his intended audience of reception is. And coming back to the fashion choice, it was enough.
Yeah.
And it was actually probably more effective looking like adult dress up than and the kid rocking. This is not to pick it apart. We could just say, oh, that was so fun and cool. Or
Right.
We could do just a teeny bit of the reason I think about it being playing like a kid is because it was what are the horses on a stick called? It wasn't a rocking horse, but it was like a
Yeah.
It was a child's. He made it.
The horse head on a broomstick.
It's a child's toy. It's a child's play toy.
Yeah. Well, he's a tall dude. He's sitting on this little,
with this little kid toy.
Yep. He's got a sword and.
Yeah, so he had grown up, whatever you want to call the shin guards, and the chainmail fit an adult head.
Yeah.
But I've actually had that kit in my home, and it was for a 5-year-old boy. Not as nice though. He had good chainmail.
Here's a little behind the scenes.
Okay.
Light that all men are also.
Say that last part again.
All men are also for.
Are they? That's good to know.
Yep.
It should be honored.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, there was a little bit of a kid streak showing unabashedly.
Mm-hmm.
You got a problem with that?
Yeah.
So yeah, I loved the fashion, and yeah, and that wasn't even cosplay. It was Lewis Cole evoking the knight,
right.
The knight in shining armor.
Exactly.
Give or take a couple pieces.
But that's not important.
Yeah. And then production-wise, I always am listening and wondering kind of how'd they make that. And you had mentioned that sometimes in production, he is playing with production as, you didn't say Lewis Cole plays with production as a playground.
I did say that.
But it feels like he plays with production. And so I do think that when you step into a studio, you can ask what if, whether it's like gating effects or layers, there's just different things that are possible in the digital world that aren't possible in the analog real life world. We can get a lot closer these days to capturing what we can do in a studio if we want to. So yeah, his production was layered.
Yeah.
And it's obviously produced. It's obviously him playing with the possibilities of a studio. And it's also obvious that he's not just making a silk purse out of a cow's ear. And what I mean by that is he's actually playing stuff or actually singing stuff. Like, he's not using auto-tune. When he's using auto-tune, he's not used to fix vocal problems with pitchiness. So that's nice, I think.
Yep.
And it also, I just feel like there's this cut to the chase way that he's making production choices, going after what he wants in a simple and efficient way. Like, you don't have to wait 2 months to get into a studio. You don't have to have somebody else set up your gear. We don't need a lot of gear. And when you can play what you're hearing and get it as close to that as possible, production is not a fix-it maneuver. Production elevates and is an enhancer. It's, as opposed to having to airbrush every note and scoot it. Yeah, make your engineers work. So anyway, so it's interesting to watch how he's still using a very strong live bass for his production work. All right. Thank you for that.
Okay. Are you ready for the next one?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not gonna say anything.
Don't do spoilers. This is
No
the
spoilers.
reaction show. It's called the reaction show?
But it is.
Okay. Oh, look, there's an audience. It's the same guy.
Same
So
guy.
so we've been talking about this sense of like making what you want to make,
Mhm.
and I think there's also this sense of being able to. So I think it's so what's interesting is some of where that went was a very similar place to where the snarky puppy cut went the last time we were listening together, in terms of, and it's not just the orchestral, but actually even the chord progression. I bet if you go and you check the BPMs, they might be a little bit close. It's so funny. I am a music geek, even if I don't read liner notes or the press very much. So it's funny. The opening thing before he got going vocally was reminding me of some of the opening chords of Steve Winwood. Like some of the harmonies there remind me of that. And then he just went to a really beautiful place. And again, I've talked before about, it's always really interesting for me watching people who identify as male explore their falsetto. And he wasn't using his higher register as an alt place to go. He was singing what he heard. So I think about that element of, if you can hear it, you can play it. And that's McCoy Tyner, who is fairly technically gifted, but that's not how he finds what he finds. And so I think there's this path for people who are creators where you're following the thing, whether it feels like you're hearing it, or whether it feels like it's revealing itself to you as co-creators or throwing things in the soup pot. There's a sense of like trying to follow this art phenomena that's trying to manifest or get completed. And what's also really admirable is that this piece that he had a vision for I believe that was a performance. I mean, there was a brief glimpse of the audience, and they were sitters, by the way. But
Yes, they were.
you would probably need people that were dancers and were really comfortable. For me, I just think about music and dance. Like, if you want to know sometimes where my head goes these days, it goes to those two things living together and being in dialogue. But with the level of sophistication,
this is probably the newest album. The whole thing was recorded at this setting. Every song.
it's wonderful how much range he's got there. And it's fine that he doesn't have people dancing. But like for something like this, you would need people that were intimate with the music the way dancers get intimate with the song, in terms of understanding it and finding the nuances of it and figuring out how to embody it. Like, it wouldn't necessarily be like a party jam dance, though some of his stuff comes close to being danceable in that way. And I also feel like whatever adventure he's inviting other musicians on, they either end up having a clear sense of how they fit in and they're a purposeful contribution to the whole, or he gives that to them. So it's interesting. I didn't really go off of compositional content on the last one, even though I had that as like a little circle. It takes probably about that many people to do some of what he might find on his own in the studio. Like what does the world of a studio look like? It looks like that many people on stage, which is amazing and hard to organize. So it's pretty awesome that he was able to get whatever he was hearing, and however many collaborators he had along the way. Again, the people you're bringing in for our listening sessions have chops, and that means they've trained. And that means that they could read a chart if they had to, even if they're not working off of charts. It means they could chart if they wanted to. It means they could do their own arranging, but it also means they've got a guy. Like, if they don't want to do some of the things that might require a specialized skill set, you can hand it off. And with Lewis, that's always one of the things I'm wondering when I'm watching him is where he hands off, because there's a human carrying capacity. If you are a performer, you can't actually be performing and mixing at the same time. Close, you can come close, but there is a point where you need collaborators who can take part of what needs to be done and run with it in a way where there's a meeting of the minds, where there's trust there, but there's also like a unified vision where you're not sending somebody off and they're coming back with something that either, forgot to plug in the chords, or, wow, that wasn't what we intended. Right.
Yeah.
So what I also loved too, okay, so this is funny. I wasn't looking for keyboards on this one, but there was at least a synth or two. Like when I was listening to this,
there
was a lot visually going on.
Yeah, there's at least two, the two keyboard players that you saw in Nowhere.
Okay. So did I mention there was a lot going on visually? I love the stars. I love the skeleton outfits. That's nice. I mean, it's fancy. It's black and white. Like
hey.
It's like a tux, only different.
Yeah.
And the backdrop was really nice. So I think about like those elements being engaging and simple. Like it's kind of like at the point that you've committed to wearing partial chainmail on a hobby horse, that you really don't need to do a lot more. Like that's enough for that video. And in this case, I think the visuals again were like perfect and enough. Like, yeah, you can stop now.
Yep.
So I think he's got that sense of like, sometimes John and I will talk about putting 20 pounds in a 5-pound bag, or there's some people that when they're making liturgies it almost feels like they ask, what else could we possibly add here? And I'm one of those. And it feels like he's doing something where he finds it'll be compelling, and we're going to stop so it's got the space. Like, why clutter your hobby horse? Mm-hmm. Why crowd the skeleton suits?
Right. Yeah, they're already interesting.
And the other
context. Yeah, that's enough.
So the other thing is, just to go back to the hobby. Look, we're being arty. We're being an arty podcast, Bryan.
Yes.
Ooh. All right. So I do think he was actually under an open sky or outdoors shot, but it was under an open sky for the hobby horse. Like we don't actually see him going through like a 7-Eleven. He comes up close to them, but I don't think he actually takes his vehicle indoors. And in this case, he brings the outdoors in. And so again, we literally are under an open sky, as much open as you can make it, which is looking at the night stars or the outer space version of the sky. And also, like, it's kitschy. It might be Grateful Dead-y. It might be Day of the Dead-y. It might be Halloween costumey, or it might be We're All Gonna Die. Like, he's got them dressed as skeletons under an open sky. So it's evocative. And again, like, you don't have to call it one way or the other. It could be goofy little kid, or it could be somebody just creating what they want to create, and it's got a resonance to it. So it's interesting, his open skyness and where he's able to throw that in. So I think that's pretty much it. Definitely a powerful piece.
Yeah. Yeah. I have an option for you. I have two more very short pieces. But
by the way,
one, yes.
No. Let's just do it.
Okay.
I can be short.
Okay. One is just another song from this concert. The short piece, and then I have one last.
Okay, and I think, do you want to? Okay. I say okay.
Okay.
Is it wrong if I send a quick text on our podcast?
Not at all.
Let me just do a quick text. I had somebody I'm meeting for lunch. I like how there's always these life aside comments during our podcast. And because I don't actually watch the reruns, I feel like nobody watches these. We're just having you and me a conversation.
Sure. Yeah.
It's just us. Yeah. No one was ever going to see this. It's freaking buried, Bryan.
Yeah.
One sec. Do you think we can do what you want to do in 15 minutes?
Absolutely.
Okay, and just like, I don't know that we can actually do an hour. Just we need to acknowledge that in our work together. Okay, great.
See what's going on. Okay. Here's one other short song from the same.
Okay, doing it.
Yep.
The triangle,
Yeah.
the orc,
Triangle.
the orc, O-R-K, the microtones, the synth hits.
So they were-
It's Zus, Spake, Zaruthra, and Dead Mouse.
Yeah.
All in a minute.
Yep.
Who cares? Yeah. So yeah. And I also again enjoy the play of going from a triangle hit in the middle of that wash of sound. It is almost so okay, so that could be a joke, and it probably is a joke, but it also has the equivalency of acting like a prayer chime.
Yeah.
Like a
Yeah. I
so
can see it.
but it's both. Like it's so incongruous that we would
Mhm.
stop the bus for like the ant to crawl across the street. Okay, and now we're back. Wall of Sound, Mad Maxing.
Yep.
All right, thank you, Lewis.
All right. So you think you know Lewis Cole?
No, I don't.
That's what
I
you're
don't.
thinking.
I don't think that.
That's
but I
what
do
you're
want to.
thinking. Thinking
I also.
you know Lewis Cole.
Who's his audience, man? Who's his
Yeah.
audience?
Now,
I hope that if anybody at all listens to this, I hope that they let us know who they are in the chat.
Yes.
Who are you people that listen to Lewis Cole?
yes.
He's quite broad.
Yes. Okay. So now I have to say that this next piece, which is short, Lewis Cole says that it is not. So, yeah,
Uh,
that's the only context. Are you ready?
yes, I'm ready. Let's go. Boy, I hope nobody ever listens to this podcast, Bryan. That's my goal for us. Okay, so I love the smooth jazz insert as well as the translating going on underneath.
Mhm.
And I also just thought anywhere, anytime, it's not Lewis Cole. And again, like the efficiency of what they were able to get done, those clowns in that Santa can,
Yeah.
like covering the bass, covering the sax, covering the drums. I don't know that I saw all the keyboards being utilized. Maybe I wasn't watching closely enough. There was one.
They've done multiple. They did multiple songs.
So maybe it was just they used that other keyboard on a different day.
Yeah.
And again, what brings it on home, kind of like the triangle. Okay, so he also, I mean, it's funny when he does it, but it also creates, you can't go loud if you don't go quiet.
Mm.
And you can't go into chaos really unless you put it next to something that sounds like smooth jazz. You'll notice that I didn't list any artists because I'm not trying to be mean.
But it's all about the content.
No, I think he was going someplace, but by going here and then going here and then going back out, like it lets it be this other thing. And I also think that humor, like he goes all sorts of places that are just really emotionally open, even while wearing sunglasses, which again I think of as a contrast.
Mhm.
Like typically wearing sunglasses creates emotional distance between a performer and an audience, not necessarily, but definitely like between people, like the conversation people would have. Like if you want to have a sunglasses day sometime where we do the podcast, it probably will feel different because we can't see each other's faces and eyes the same way. So I also like knowing that it's Lewis Cole, that he was following yet again one of the things that he wanted to try conceptually. Like the not Lewis Cole, who was the clowns in a can or whatever they were. That was a very intentional piece, and it's out there enough, but accessible enough and short enough. Like you're not asking people to watch 2 hours of clowns in a can. Right. You're asking them to watch like a punk, barfy jazz. Not barfy jazz. There's a better word than barfy jazz. But there's an angularity and an energy and almost a punk anger energy to some experimental out there jazz. And when people do it right, it's not barfy. Like they're not just spewing. They're here. Acid jazz I think of as being just a little more ravey. Do you think about that?
Yeah.
I think about acid jazz just being like over tracks that are hip hoppy. That's a gross generalization, but I don't necessarily think about it having the color and taste of like Ornette or Sun Ra. Anyway, I think there's a lot about, like when you were talking about authenticity and honesty, I think Lewis Cole brings that. And I think part of that is kind of being able to create what you envision or play what you hear and play what you feel. So good job, Lewis. And he does that even in a clown suit when he's not being Lewis. Oh, we can try fist bump. Should we fist bump? Okay, that was sort of a fist bump.
My camera won't focus on it.
Really? My camera's focusing very clearly on my wedding ring.
Oh, there we go.
There, nice knuckles. I feel like we arm wrestled.